All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to Diabetes Talk. I'm your host, Charlie O'Connell. We are broadcasting live and direct right from New Haven, Connecticut, here in the GlucoseZone studio. I want to do a huge shout out to everyone who just joined us for that awesome abs GlucoseZone workout. And guys, if you haven't joined us yet for one of our GlucoseZone workouts, download the GlucoseZone app, try it for free. If you are ready to do what it takes to reduce and control your diabetes, I promise you, GlucoseZone is going to help you on that journey. All right, so I am pumped up to be back in New Haven. We just had an amazing weekend in Chicago. We saw some of our GlucoseZone members. It was so great to meet some of you. I want to do a special shout out to Jeanette. Jeanette came and saw us, hung out with us for the day. I had the chance to meet Jeanette's sister and beautiful niece, and it was great, and really an honor, Jeanette, to meet you. And guys, we really learned a lot from our Chicago trip. We are definitely going to be visiting other places coming up soon, and we want to see and meet you guys because you guys inspire us, okay? Now, we are live, guys, in the GlucoseZone app. I want to say what's up to Veronica. I want to say what's up to Anita joining us on Instagram. And Ray Condon, is great to see you, Ray. Ray is one of our original GlucoseZone members going all the way back to like 2011. Way back, okay? So, Ray, it is great to see you here, okay? So, today's topic, guys, is what we are really going to do is we got a lot of questions at the ADA Expo in Chicago, and we thought that it would be a good idea to address some of those questions that came up because we've consistently gotten some questions online, and that was really, really reinforced with our experience in Chicago. So we are going to answer those questions today. Of course, guys, we want to answer and basically engage with any questions that you have, all right? So, to start, we get so many questions about what does exercise do, all right? And why is exercise so important for my diabetes? And basically, we, of course, it's a little surprising to us, but there does seem to still be a disconnect with understanding the value of exercise as relates to your diabetes. And that question came up quite a bit while we were in Chicago. Why do I need to exercise for my diabetes, and what types of exercise are good for me? So let's start off, guys, with understanding why exercise is good for everyone. Okay, because ultimately, all of us living with diabetes, we want to be living as healthy and as normal a lifestyle as possible. So let's really, really understand how exercise relates to a normal and healthy lifestyle. And the first thing, guys, in terms of the benefits of exercise, relates to your heart. So exercise improves your cardiovascular system. It improves the strength of your heart and its ability to function. So remember, your heart is a muscle. The more that you use it, okay, the more you safely, effectively, and consistently challenge your heart to pump, the stronger your heart is going to be, okay? And also, exercise helps to keep both cholesterol and blood pressure in a healthy range. So, guys, cholesterol and blood pressure, high levels of cholesterol, high levels of blood pressure sometimes can be a comorbidity condition, okay? But in both cases, cholesterol and blood pressure are impacted by exercise in a very healthy way because exercise literally stimulates the creation of microvascular blood vessels, okay? So when you exercise consistently and you do aerobic exercise, you literally create more blood vessels, okay? And the more blood vessels you have in your body, the easier and more effective it is for blood to travel through your body, right? Exercise also improves bone density and can really, really help prevent osteoporosis. This is especially important, guys. As we get older, your bone health, your bone's ability to bear weight are significantly impacted by the amount of exercise and activity that you perform. Exercise increases and improves your immune function. And this is something, that it was interesting when we put these talks together. I had not really put that connection together, that basically the more you exercise, the stronger your immune system is, the less likely you are to catch colds, be susceptible to viruses, flus, and things like that. Okay? Exercise increases your energy levels. Guys, there is a general saying in physics: a body at rest tends to stay at rest, a body in motion tends to stay in motion. So the more you exercise, the more energy you are going to have. Now, I know that that's hard to accept when you are just getting started, because it feels like you're moving a mountain just to take one step. But I promise you, that first step is the hardest step. And literally every single step after that becomes easier and easier and easier and easier, and you become more and more engaged with your fitness. Okay? Exercise improves your quality of sleep. Now, this is one of the most important ones. Many people living with diabetes also suffer from sleep issues, okay? And what exercise does is it literally tires you out in a very, very positive way, right? So when you're exercising consistently, most people experience better sleep, healthier sleep patterns, okay? Exercise promotes a healthier sex life for both men and women. So this, guys, is one of the most important things. A healthy sex life, a active sex life, is something that is so important to staying young, feeling good about yourself, being engaged with your partner, being engaged with society, and basically exercise supports and promotes a healthy sex life. And it's one of the most important things. We don't really talk about it very much because it's a hard topic to talk about, but there's no question about it, okay? Exercise has a major, major impact on your love life. Okay. 2 other things, okay? Exercise causes an increase in muscle mass, okay, which improves your metabolic rate and the number of calories that are required to run your body, which helps you lose weight. So let me break that down. We talk a lot about the muscle parking lots. We encourage you in all of our GlucoseZone programming. We are trying to help you build your muscle parking lots. Your muscle mass is ultimately a reflection of your muscle parking lot. The more muscle you have, the more muscle mass you have, the more calories your body requires to sustain itself on a day-to-day basis. And ultimately, that leads to effective and healthy weight loss, okay? Because if you start exercising and building muscle mass and just maintain your current eating habits, you will start to burn fat. If you pare down your food consumption and build muscle, that is then when you really, really start to see incredible changes in your body in a very positive way. And I want to encourage you, guys, bodybuilders are experts at health and at changing their body. And bodybuilders do 2 things universally. They lift weights, and they are very, very strict with their portions and what they put into their body, okay? And I want you to embrace that mentality. Your body is your temple, okay? What you put into your body will directly impact how you feel, how you look, your diabetes, okay, and your overall health. So I want you to take seriously the quality of the food that you're putting into your body, all right? And nobody is perfect. Everybody has moments of bad choices, weakness, whatever you want to call it. The most important thing, guys, when that happens is to just get right back on the horse with healthy eating and with exercise. And I'm going to use that as an example. When we went out to Chicago, the GlucoseZone team, we went out for deep dish pizza, which was really fun. And there's a great picture actually on our social media of the whole team enjoying deep dish pizza, which was cool. But the bottom line, guys, I woke up the next morning, my blood sugar was 320. And the reality is that deep dish pizza and diabetes really do not go together. So how did I handle that? Well, the first thing I did, I had my green juice. The second thing I did was I went and got some serious exercise. Okay, and guys, exercise can it can right so many wrongs when it comes to food and nutrition and diabetes. All right, so that kind of is a good transition to understanding the specifics of exercise and diabetes. So I want to talk about why is exercise even more beneficial for people living with diabetes, right? So the first thing, understanding exercise increases muscle mass. What that ultimately enables you to do is store more glycogen. So remember what glycogen is. Glycogen is the form that glucose takes when it is stored in your liver or in your muscle. The more that you can store glycogen in your muscle, the more likely you're going to have normalized blood sugar levels, okay? That's if you have type 2 diabetes. If you have type 1 diabetes, the more muscle you have, the more glycogen you can store in your muscles, the less insulin you are going to have to take. And ultimately, guys, for people with type 1 diabetes, it is very, very important that you are taking the minimal amount of insulin that keeps your blood sugar levels in a healthy range. Okay? And the reason why that is because the more insulin you take, the more susceptible you are to terrible fluctuations in your glucose levels. And for me, this afternoon was a good example. And if you guys were with me during our workout that we did before this talk, I shared with you that I made a mistake with my diabetes management this afternoon, and the mistake that I made was I did a double bolus correction. And what that means is I tested my blood sugar was high, so I took a bolus correction, which means I took a rapid acting insulin shot. Then I waited about an hour, tested my blood sugar again, and my number had gone even higher. And then I made a mistake. Instead of going and exercising, instead of basically just having a little bit of patience, I got very frustrated, and I took another bolus of a correction insulin. And of course what happened, my number then crashed. All right, and that can be a very frustrating and potentially dangerous situation. So you guys, I want to encourage you, if you have type 1 diabetes, the more muscle you build, the more muscle mass you have, ultimately the less insulin you're going to have to take, which generally speaking makes diabetes management a little easier. Okay? The next one, very, very important, okay, very, very important, especially relates to type 2 diabetes, is when you exercise frequently, you lower your body's production of excess insulin, right? Which is excess insulin is known as a term called hyperinsulinism. Ooh, that's a mouthful, okay? So hyperinsulinemia, basically what hyperinsulinemia is also known as insulin resistance. and it usually is associated with obesity and or gaining weight. And the more hyperinsulinemia you're experiencing, actually the harder and harder it is to lose weight. Because remember, guys, there is a relationship between insulin and fat metabolism. And very, very important to understand. Insulin does two things in your body. It causes the absorption of glucose, but it also inhibits fat metabolism. And that is very, very important to understand if you are going to achieve weight loss, healthy weight loss. But it also is very, very important to understand in terms of why exercise is so beneficial for diabetes, because ultimately exercise lowers your requirement for insulin. All right? Now, here's another really interesting thing about exercise. Exercise, this is so interesting. Exercise increases the non-insulin dependent uptake of glucose by muscles. Okay? So, I'm going to say that again. Exercise increases the non-insulin dependent uptake of glucose by the muscles. So there is something called Glute4 receptors. And what Glute4 receptors are receptors in your muscle cells that can uptake glucose without the need for insulin. Glute4 receptors only work and they only come to the surface when you have performed consistent and sustained aerobic high repetition exercise. All right? And very, very important to understand that. So insulin is a anabolic hormone. And what anabolic means is to build up. So the presence of insulin is usually associated with building a cell, right? You're building fat cells or you are replenishing your muscle cells. You're actually filling them up. When you exercise consistently and you do consistent aerobic high repetition exercise, it actually stimulates your muscles to open up what are called Glute4 receptors. And Glute4 receptors absorb glucose without the requirement of insulin. So important to understand, guys. Okay? All right. The last thing, exercise usually results in a decreased need for medication. Now, of course, you should always talk with your doctor about any medication decisions that you're making. But the bottom line, guys, is we see it over and over and over and over and over again. People living with diabetes who embrace GlucoseZone or any physical activity pretty much across the board reduce their need for medications. Okay? And why is that? Because exercise naturally improves your sensitivity to insulin. Exercise naturally regulates the hormonal balance in your body. Insulin naturally increases your muscle mass, which increases your ability to store glycogen. And all of those natural byproducts are accomplished through prophylactic medications. And so what we see all the time is a conflict occurs where if you are taking prophylactic medications that artificially increase your sensitivity to insulin or artificially suppress the counter-regulatory hormones that cause glucose levels to go up, as soon as the person starts exercising, then a conflict occurs because the exercise fundamentally causes a rebalancing of those counter-regulatory hormones. Exercise fundamentally changes your sensitivity and use of insulin. All right? So those are, guys, it's so important to understand the benefits of exercise when it comes to regular health, people who don't have diabetes, it's also so important to understand why exercise is so beneficial for people living with diabetes. All right. I want to stop right there. I want to recognize a couple people. First person I want to recognize is Maria, joining us from Mexico. Hola, Maria. It is great to have you here. Okay. And Maria shared with us that she has lost 53 pounds. Okay. Which is amazing. Okay. And Maria, I want to thank you for sharing that, number one. Okay. Guys, anytime you have success, I want you to share it. And it's not about bragging. It's not about bringing attention to yourself. It's about inspiring other people. You don't know who you may have just inspired to take that step. Okay? Also want to do a huge shout out on Facebook too to Mary Guerra, who joined us. Mary joined us for our exercise video. And Mary shared with us, since eating healthier and exercising, I feel much better and I've lost 31 pounds. I have more energy and I have my blood sugar under control. Guys, Mary, I'm so proud of you. Thank you for sharing that. Guys, this is possible, okay? If you are able and willing, the key word being willing, because almost everybody is able to take that first step, to lift that first weight, to go to that first gym class, to do your first GlucoseZone workout, you will never look back because you will immediately feel the better. It's just, it is simple as that. Okay? So Mary, I am proud of you. Okay? I am proud of you for putting that hard work in. Maria, I am proud of you for putting that hard work in. I know how hard it is to lose weight. I know how hard it is to change eating habits. Okay? And you should be proud of yourself. And don't look back now. Okay, the next question we've got is coming from Instagram. We've had a bunch of people join us on Instagram. Mayday 35 has joined us. It is great to see you. Mayday goes all the way back to a friend of mine 20 years ago at Penn. It was so awesome to have you here, Mayday. Now, we've got a question on Instagram. It's from Ray Condon. And what Ray asked is, I heard that for bodybuilders, prior to sleeping, will eat casein protein like eggs, okay, or red meat to keep their bodies in an anabolic state. Is this true for type 1 as well, or rather, is this good for type 1 diabetes? Okay, so the consumption of protein, now eggs and red is a great question. It's a great question coming from Ray. So the consumption of eggs and the consumption of red meat are actually very, very different, okay? But the point of the question is the consumption of protein, specifically casein protein, to keep your body in an anabolic state. So guys, remember what an anabolic state, anabolic means to build up, all right? So here is the thing. The short answer is yes. That is true for type 1 people as well, okay? So if you consume protein before going to sleep, that is going to help with the building process. But the key, guys, and this is what I want to emphasize, is there has to be exercise before that food consumption, and there has to be exercise after as well. Because if you're not exercising and you're eating a whole bunch of protein, all that's going to do is make you fatter. And generally speaking, the older you get, the less protein you need, okay? That's just as a general concept. And the second thing that's important to understand is that most Americans overconsume protein just in general, okay? We tend to eat way too much protein, and cutting back on protein consumption is healthy for your diabetes. It's healthy for the world, okay? And it ultimately, you're going to feel that basically you feel better, you have more energy. So the consumption of protein is a healthy thing as long as you are exercising and exercising a lot. All right, now I want to answer the two most common questions that came up while we were in Chicago. And the first question was, how often should I exercise? All right, it's a great question. So here's the thing. What was funny about that question kept coming up, and it was kind of like, I sensed that many people were asking that question hoping for a answer of 3 days a week. Because, and many times the question is posed like, how often do I have to do this? And guys, I'm going to share with you right now, if your attitude towards exercise is how often do I have to do this, that fundamentally tells me you are not ready. You're not ready to make a change. Because if you're thinking of it in the sense of how often do I have to do this, that means that you're not into it. So I'm going to challenge you a little bit. The answer is very clear. You should exercise every day. If you exercise 2 times a day, that's better than 1 time a day. Okay? If you exercise 3 times a day, that's better than 2 times a day. So literally, the more you exercise, the healthier, the better it is for you. Okay? As you exercise, your nutritional consumption needs to become performance oriented. Okay? And it kind of goes to the question that Ray Condon asked about what should I be eating? All right? So as you start to exercise more and more, you are going to experience a shift in your focus on nutrition, and all of a sudden you're going to start really becoming conscious and craving foods that are going to improve your performance. And generally speaking, that is going to be foods that are high in vitamins, minerals, and nutrients. It's going to include a lot of green vegetables, and it is going to include protein. Now, for me, the protein that I usually like to eat is poultry-based. So I eat a lot of chicken, I eat turkey, okay? I eat fish, probably once a week I'll have fish. But the main source of my protein is poultry. I will have red meat occasionally, but for me, red meat is something that takes my body a long time to digest. It really has a challenging impact on my diabetes, okay? And if that's the case for you, I want you to acknowledge that. All right. FK is joining us from Dubai, which is amazing. Guys, we have a totally global broadcast tonight. Mexico, Dubai, Algeria, India. I want to ask all of our global audience members, share the word about GlucoseZone. GlucoseZone is a solution that literally can help 99% of people living with diabetes. Because guess what? 99% of people living with diabetes will benefit from exercise solutions. Now, the last one, Carl is in the app. Carl, it is great to have you here. Thank you for joining us. And Carl is joining us from South Carolina. Well, that's what's up, Carl. I love South Carolina. And Carl, I want to thank you for joining us. So Carl said he gained a bit of weight, right? And asked if it potentially has to do, Carl gained a little bit of weight and basically asked, does lifting impact that? Okay, lifting weights. So here's the thing, guys. Lifting weights can potentially cause a slight increase in your weight. There's a very specific reason for that. Muscle is heavier than fat tissue. So if you start working out and you start lifting weights and you see a slight increase in your weight, don't bug out too much about that. I want you to just keep doing it, because lifting weights is not like eating food. If you continue to lift weights, eventually you are going to reach a plateau in terms of weight gain. And if you continue to lift, you will increase the total caloric requirement of your body, and you will start to lose weight, and you specifically will start to burn fat. And ultimately, guys, the burning of fat is what we want. The healthy metabolism of fat is what is so essential to the management of diabetes. And the healthy metabolism of fat, there is no question about it, requires daily and consistent exercise. So, on that note, guys, we are going to sign off. I want to thank everybody who joined us from around the world. You guys are inspiring us here at GlucoseZone to keep going. Special shout out to those who joined us that we met in person in Chicago. And guys, if you haven't downloaded the GlucoseZone app, download the GlucoseZone app. Try it for free. I guarantee you, you're going to love it. All right. Good night.